How exactly does one become the best Dynasty fantasy football commissioner? Today, I'm going to break it down. We're going to go through very in-depth, a detailed look on how you can be the best commissioner of a Dynasty league. This should cover everything from, those of you guys that are new Dynasty players wanting to join a Dynasty league to any experienced Dynasty players looking for some new tips, looking for some new tricks. There's going to be 6 parts to this video. First off, what is Dynasty? What platforms to play on? How to join a league? That kind of stuff. Part 2, how do you create a league specifically on Sleeper, which is our preferred platform? Pick your settings, what are our preferred settings, that kind of thing. Part 3, we're going to talk about how to collect buy-ins and specifically how to use League Safe properly, which is something that I know can be kind of confusing for commissioners. Number 4, we'll talk about the startup draft, how to set it up, order, rules, that kind of thing. Part 5, the rookie draft, same thing, how to set it up, order, rules. And then part 6, commissioner frequently asked questions that I farmed out to Twitter of how to handle kind of certain situations. And this would be probably for more experienced Dynasty players looking for some tips and tricks. Basically, this will just be how to be the model commissioner for Dynasty leagues. One thing before we get started, there is a free resource for you guys down below in the pinned comment. It is basically a template of bylaws that you can use and implement in your own leagues. Most of the settings are settings that we prefer, but you can obviously just hit file, make a copy, and adjust any settings that you and your league mates want to do that are not the settings that we like doing. So let's get into part 1, which is the basics. I'm going to do this under the assumption that some of you guys have absolutely no idea what Dynasty is. If you are an experienced Dynasty player, you can probably skip ahead to part 2. What is a Dynasty league? Dynasty fantasy football, instead of redraft, where every single year you draft a new team with your buddies, in Dynasty, you draft a team at what's known as the startup draft, and you hold your team indefinitely, or however long the league lasts for. It could be 5 years. I'm in a couple of leagues that have been around that long. Could be 15 years. It could be 3 years. However long the league lasts for is how long you have your team. And basically, you're only drafting rookies the same way that a real-life NFL GM would be. This makes Dynasty way more of a long-term approach than redraft, because drafting poorly, making bad trades, that'll create holes on your roster that you'll have to dig yourself out of. Whereas in redraft, if you ruin a team one year, you get to draft a new team the next year, and it's kind of no harm, no foul. So the first question is probably, who do you play with? Ideally, you'd be playing with people you know in real life, friends, family, coworkers. That's always the best option. It's going to make it the most fun. But sometimes, you live in Canada like me, and there's not a whole lot of friends that you have that are interested in Dynasty. So you can join our Flock Discord, where you can be a site subscriber and you can hit the join our league channel. And as far as playing with people you don't know is concerned, these players will be more serious than just like random people from Reddit or Twitter, which is definitely the least ideal. If you get people in our Flock Discord, you can at least be sure that they're serious Dynasty players, because they watch content and they probably have, their own takes and that kind of thing. So I would say option 2 is, people in our Flock Discord, or people in a Discord community of any other creator for that matter. And then, like I said, Reddit, Twitter, other obscure places that you might find Dynasty players, probably the least ideal option of the 3. Next up is, where should you play, i.e. where should you host the league on in terms of platform. You can play on many platforms, My Fantasy League, Fantrax, among others, but bar none, the best place to play is Sleeper, in my opinion. I'm in 13 Dynasty leagues. All of them are on Sleeper, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So Sleeper to me is clearly the best option. It's the most customizable. The UI is the most user-friendly, and it's just the best, honestly. It has a league chat. Every feature of Sleeper is better than every other feature of every other platform. So to me, Sleeper is the best place to host it. And I'll show you exactly how to set up a league on Sleeper right now. All right, so now we're into Sleeper, and we're going to go over exactly how to make a league on here. And this league that I'm creating is going to be called Flock and Right. You can put the league name in there. This is real. This is a real listener league that I'm creating. So if you guys want to be a part of it, fair warning, it will be a DEVY league, which just means that you draft college players as well. The link to join that will be in the description. Of course, Flock code FSE subscribers will have bonus chances to get in, but you can also potentially get in as a free listener as well. The number of teams will be 12 in our league. It might be different in your league. Obviously, just pick that based on your own discretion. If you're in plenty of leagues like I am already, normally I would just copy my settings from an existing league, but I'm going to show you how to do it from scratch. And we're going to go create our own league with new settings, and it's going to be a Dynasty league, and we're going to be doing a snake draft, which is what we recommend. If you know people in real life and you want to do an auction draft, I would say only if you're experienced Dynasty players only, but it is a very fun way to do it. I've never actually personally done one, but it would be a ton of fun to do one for a Dynasty draft specifically. So now we're showing you here basically what is the best order to do things. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've been in a ton of leagues. I've commissioned a ton of leagues already. So if this is your first time being a commissioner, it might be overwhelming, all the stuff that you have to do. So I'm giving you guys the best order to do things. First and foremost, create the league, which we just did. Second, invite people to join the league. That would be using this link right here, invite your friends to play. Text it to them, DM it to them, whatever method of communication, email it to them, whatever. So you send everybody the link. All 12 people hypothetically have joined the league at this point in time. Next, what we're going to do is basically we're going to work out the semantics of determining the buy-ins, reading the bylaws, voting on our scoring settings, all that kind of stuff. We have the bylaws listed down below. Type them in to the league chat and go read these bylaws before paying at all. Use the at all feature a lot on Sleeper because it is very important as a commissioner. And then you would copy and paste the link in from the bylaws. And then also using the pin feature in the chat, you hit the little 3 arrows or 3 dots there, hit pin, and then people can access the bylaws anytime they need them. And the bylaws have a lot of things in there about how to conduct yourself and all that kind of stuff. So you want people to read those, maybe even sign them if you don't know them beforehand, before anything else happens. Then you're going to vote on stuff. Now, this is the best way to go about it, especially if you don't know people. Like, for example, when we start leagues, it's with you guys. I don't actually know you guys in real life. So what I like to do is create a bunch of polls. Once everybody joins the league, you can start voting on league settings and buy-ins and payout structure. Maybe you've already agreed upon all this stuff with your friends if you know them in real life, but for the purposes of this, you might not know these people in real life. So what we're going to do first is determine buy-ins and payout structure, because that's the first thing that you should talk about. So we're going to start a poll here. We're going to go, what should the buy-in be? And then it's going to be, you know, maybe $50, maybe $100, maybe it's going to be $200, or maybe we're going to go comment any others below. And then we're going to go single choice, restrict to one person, create that poll. And like I said, maybe pin that poll as well so that everybody can see it. And then again, we're going to create the next poll, which is going to be the payout structure specifically. So payout structure, can't spell, structure. And then we're going to go winner take all is option 1. Winner gets 9 of the 12 buy-ins. Second gets 3 of 12. And again, there's plenty of different options that you can do for this. These are, you know, probably the most popular 2. You could also do like regular season champion gets 1 buy-in. Again, we're not going to get too involved with semantics, but again, you're going to set up all these polls. Those 2 are the first ones that you're going to want to make, the buy-ins and the payout structure. But then you're going to want to talk about scoring settings. So that's going to be the next thing that you look over, which is, okay, are we going to do PPR or half PPR, right? And you put in PPR, half PPR, and everyone votes on that. And you're going to do tons of these. I mean, I would say there's probably like 10 polls I do at least for every one of those types of scoring settings, and then everybody can kind of vote on them. And including yourself, you can vote on all those. So it could be PPR, half PPR. It could be 3 wide receiver start or 2 wide receiver start, 1 quarterback or super flex. How many flexes are you going to have? Kickers or defenses, 3rd round reversal or non-3rd round reversal, tight end premium or non-tight end premium. There's a number of different settings you can put in. I'm not going to go through and, you know, make all those polls, but hypothetically you would do that and everybody would vote on them. And then once everybody has voted, you then implement those scoring settings. So I'll show you exactly how to do that. So you go to settings, you go to roster settings. Let's say you guys voted on 3 wide receivers and you voted to make it a super flex league. And you voted on 2 flexes, so you leave that as is. You voted no kicker, no defense, and 20 bench spots, for example. And these are not a coincidence that I picked these. These are our preferred FSE settings. So if you want to just kind of copy what we like to do, in our leagues, that's exactly what we do. Then we go to scoring settings. So again, you would vote on all of this stuff hypothetically, but you'd vote on 6-point per passing touchdown or 4-point per passing touchdown. I generally like 4 better. Then you would go to rushing. Okay, are you going to have any bonuses for running backs? Are you going to have any bonuses for wide receivers? Is it a full PPR, which is where this would be located, or a half PPR? If it's a half PPR, you would go 0.5, but we like to do full PPR, and it's going to be weird on me. So we like to do full PPR, so we would leave that as is. Tight end premium, if you're wondering where that is down here. Reception bonus tight end, 0.5 tight end premium is our preferred FSE setting. So that's where I would implement that. Kicking, defense, again, that doesn't factor in for us. Miscellaneous, if you want to change fumble stuff, if you want to change any of that stuff. Bonuses, if you want to add in that kind of stuff. Lately, what we've been doing is giving a 0.25 first down bonus to running backs because our leagues are very wide receiver heavy. You can add that stuff in. One thing we also like to do is big play bonuses. So quarterbacks get an extra point for a 40-plus yard completion, an extra 2 points for a 40-plus yard touchdown. Same goes for running backs. 40-plus yard carry, 40-plus yard touchdown, they get the same bonus. 40-plus yard reception for wide receivers, 40-plus yard touchdown. Again, you don't have to use these settings. Those are the ones in the bylaws. But whatever settings you guys vote on, that is how you would implement those. Next, you want to go to league settings. League settings, very important. You want to look over these. If you want to adjust the waiver stuff, you can go ahead. I generally like to keep it as is. This is the important one. Time pending to review trades, right here. Time to review trades. Now, some people have probably been in dynasty leagues where when a trade goes down, it's instantaneous and those players are on the other teams. I like to leave this on a review of 1 day or 2 days. I just leave it at the default because for two reasons. Number one, you want to spot obvious collusion. If somebody tries to trade Justin Jefferson for a 4th round pick, you want to be able to see that before it goes through. And number two, and this is the primary reason why I like to have time pending to review trades, is make sure everybody is bought in, because sometimes a trade will go down where somebody is trading a 1st round pick 3 years into the future. And you want that on so that you can tell them, hey, Tom, you have to buy in for that year before you trade. And then you can send him the link to buy in, and he can do that before you actually process the trade. So that's the reason that I like to leave that on. And then again, you can adjust the playoff settings, playoff teams, toilet bowl, injured reserve slots. We generally like to have 3 of those, so you can put those on. Taxi squad spots, we generally like to have 5 of those, so you can put those on. Again, generally you can mess around with these settings. I'm not going to go over every single one there, but that's basically how you do that. And we, of course, have those FSE settings in the bylaws sheet down below. If you just want to use what we use, you can definitely do that. So now everybody's voted on all these polls. They're in the league. They know the buy-in. They know the payout structure. They know the scoring settings. They know the roster settings. Everybody's voted on that. We know what we're doing here. Now it's time to collect buy-ins. Now, this is really crucial because your life as a commissioner can be a living hell if you don't follow the rules that I'm about to lay out right here. The buy-in, let's say you voted on $50. That's what the buy-in you guys voted on. Per season, it's $50. Buy-ins are required before the startup. Do not get in the habit of saying, you can pay me next week, you can pay me 3 weeks from now. If you can't afford the buy-in, you probably shouldn't be playing in this dynasty league in general. That's just a rule of mine that I like to follow because I don't want to chase people down, especially if I don't know them in real life. If you don't know them in real life, they could ghost you, they could leave the league, you never know. So make sure the buy-ins are required before the startup, especially. To make your life easier as a commissioner, we also recommend that you collect 2 years up front. So if you are in the 2025 season, you collect 2025 buy-in and 2026 buy-in for a couple of reasons. A, it ensures commitment to your league in general from all 12 participants, and also it makes your life easier as the commissioner, and it also makes the other league mates' lives easier so they can trade for or away their draft picks. I make this a rule in all of my leagues as well. All managers are required to pay in full for any draft picks that they trade for or away. So even if I trade for a 2027 first, I have to pay in for that year. And of course, the person trading away that first has to pay in for that year. So those are some rules that I like to follow as commissioner, and they are listed in the bylaws. It makes your life significantly easier as a commissioner if you're not chasing people down, if you're not wondering who's paid in and who's not. You have all that stuff laid out ahead of time. And now we're going to talk about League Safe, and that is going to be a whole host of other issues for a lot of people. But a quick disclaimer, you do need to be located in the US or in Canada, and you do need to be at least 18 years old. So I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on League Safe. Of course, if you know people in real life and you don't want to use League Safe, that's totally cool. You want to collect people's Venmos and Cash Apps and all that kind of stuff. It is just way easier to use League Safe once you learn how to use it, in my opinion. And I will say, if you are in multiple dynasty leagues like myself, it makes things a lot easier because you don't have to remember what Venmo account, put all of the money in and that kind of thing. I'm going to give you a quick tutorial of the nuts and bolts here because I am not going to lie. League Safe can be confusing, including my co-host Danny gets confused sometimes. But here's the 4 simple steps to set everything up properly and make your life easier. I'm going to demonstrate everything here and make your life super easy. So you're going to go to Create League on the homepage. You're going to hit Express. Express is the easiest one. If you are an experienced league safe person, you want to tinker around with other stuff, go nuts. Express is the easiest one. You're going to select your sport, which, watching this channel will be NFL 2025. If you're watching this next year, it'd be NFL 2026, whatever the case is. League name, our league name is Flockin' Right, and you're going to want to put the year in there too. Again, that's very important. Put the year in there too. Flockin' Right 2025. The league size. How many teams are in the league? 12. Entry fee, we have voted on that already. It is $50, like I used as an example. Save and continue. The league pot, it tells you. You can put in the payout structure here. So first place, let's say you voted on first place gets 9 buy-ins. So 9 times 50 would be $450. Second place gets 3 buy-ins, $150. There's your payout structure. That is put in. You can add in this other stuff. To me, it's kind of nonsense. So I just hit save and continue. Then we hit join message. Again, if you want to put in a join message, you can. Thanks for joining my league, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. Skip this step. And then your setup is complete. On your league safe, you now have a league safe link for people to join. You hit copy. You go back to Sleeper. And you're going to put it in the chat. You're going to go, here is the league safe link to join for 2025. You're going to go at all, and you're going to copy in the link, put it in the chat, and then you're going to pin it to the chat as well so everybody can access to it. Now, this part is very, 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 very important. After you've put the link in for the first year, you are, because we're collecting 2 years up front, going to go to the league dashboard after you've created the league. You are going to renew it for the next year. Why are you going to do this? Because the one irritating thing about League Safe, and by the way, they're not a sponsor of this, I'm just using them because to me, they're the best alternative. You're going to renew it for 2026 because once you get buy-ins into the league, it makes you like roll over funds, and that's where things can get confusing. So what you're going to do before there's any money in the league is you're going to renew it. Again, league name, this is why we put the year in, Flockin' Right 2026, NFL season 2026. Renew this league. So now you have it set up for 2025. You have it set up for 2026. Again, same step. Copy the link in the chat. Here is the league safe link to join for 2026. At all in the chat. Boom. And pin it as well. So everybody has the link. They're going to pay 2 years up front before the startup. They're going to pay that there. Third thing that you're going to want to do. I wonder if anybody can guess this. You are going to renew the league for 2027 as well. And the reason you're going to do this is, like I said, once you have people starting to trade away picks and you have people, wanting to do that, it's going to get confusing if you don't have it set up in the first place, especially if there's funds that you have to roll over and that kind of thing. So you are going to create the league for 2027 or however many years into the future you are allowed to trade picks. So if you want to allow people to trade 2028 first as well, you would do this a fourth time. You renew the league for 2027, change the year, change the season. Copy the link. Here is the link for 2027. Maybe even write in a disclaimer because this is 2 years down the road. If you trade for or away any picks in 2027, you must pay in full at all. Paste the league safe link in, and then boom, pin it to the chat. This is going to make your life so much easier. Trust me. As a commissioner, I've learned over the couple of years that this is the best way to go about things. Again, you don't want to have to remember, especially if you're in 13 leagues like me, to renew the league once somebody sends a trade away for 2 years down the road. You just want to have that stuff set up ahead of time. Sometimes League Safe can be finicky if there's money in the 2026 pot and then you try and renew for 2027. The last thing that you want as commissioner is to have somebody trade their first round pick 2 years down the road. You didn't realize or you didn't notice because you're caught up in your real life that they didn't pay. Best practice is to have the trade review commish setting on so that when a trade goes through, you have to actually push it through, not for vetoing purposes, but mainly just for proof that all payment of the parties involved in the trade are set up. Now, of course, if you don't want to have to deal with this stuff, you can always make it that you can't trade future draft picks. But to me, it is much more fun to be able to do that stuff. So as a commissioner, you want to set yourself up ahead of time so that you're ready for that stuff. I've found it is easier to just renew the league, and then if a trade happens where people got to pay in the league safe, it's already pinned. You ping them in the chat, hey, Tom, you have to pay in for trading your way your 2027 first, and then you process the trade after they've paid in. If they don't have the money to pay in right away, guess what? Trade's not getting processed. You can't trade away future picks if you don't have the money to pay in right away. The only 4 features that you should need on League Safe. League Safe can be confusing. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your dashboard. If you go to view all of your leagues, and again, I'm in a million leagues, so don't worry about that. Go to 2025, the league that you just created. If you're in one league, this will be a lot less complicated. Flock and Write 2025. These are the features that you need to use and need to know of. If you go to league settings in your specific league, you then click on payouts. That is where the payout structure is going to be. You need to be aware of that. Because, sometimes if you're in multiple leagues, you forget what the payout structure is throughout the year. Again, if you want to allocate funds to somebody at the end of the year, there will be a button here after Renew for 2026 that says, allocate payouts or whatever. And that's when you do it. If you are in Canada, you need a physical check to come into the mail. If you are in the US, I believe you can get them e-transferred or sent directly to you. You also want to use the Manage Owners section as well, because you can see what the entry fee is. If they're the commissioner, have they paid, have they not paid? You can edit those managers as well, take them out of the league if they leave, etc. You also want to use the Notify Owners section. Why? Because that's where the link to pay in is. You can send them emails. You can just copy the link and DM it to them in the sleeper chat. You can copy the link and text it to them if you know them in real life. And then also you can use the message board as well if you need to type yourself a message. That's what I use it for sometimes. Like if you type in a message in the league and be like, reminder that Tom paid in for Jim and Jim owes Tom, whatever. Like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You can leave yourself a message. You can send messages to your league mates. That is the only stuff that I use. I wouldn't really be worried about anything else. And just quickly, I'm going to show you how to allocate the funds just because that's probably pretty important to know how to do. At the end of the season, once the league is over, somebody's won the championship, you're going to basically allocate the funds to the winner of the league. So commissioner, I am a commissioner of this league, this Don't Give a Flock league. This was our last listener league from March. And when I go into it, you can see it says assign winners, and I would assign winnings for specific, let's say I won the league, I would hit assign winnings on me. And again, you can see what the payout structure is, first, second, third, etc. So that is basically how you use League Safe. If you have any questions, they are very responsive. Their frequently asked questions are pretty good. You can open tickets and contact their support. If you, for example, need to roll funds from one year to another, you might have to contact for support for that. If you need to switch commissioners, you might have to contact support for that. If you accidentally renewed the league for the wrong NFL season, which I have done before, where you go no flock in 2025 and you accidentally put in it's for the 2028 season, that would probably require support actually fixing that to you. Stick to this tutorial that I just did and you will be just fine, but their support is fast and they can help you if you do goof up. Again, not a sponsor, but a good resource once you figure out how to use it. So let's get back into it. Everybody's in the league. Everybody's got their scoring settings, roster settings down pat. Everybody is paid in 2 years up front. The league is set up on League Safe, or if you prefer to collect buy-ins in other ways, that's obviously fine too, but League Safe for the purposes of this video. Next step is setting up the rules for the startup draft and the draft order, and setting up the rules for the rookie draft. So we're into part 4 and part 5 of this video. There are 2 main ways to do the startup draft. Way number 1 is that if you are doing the startup draft this time of season, so post NFL draft, May to early September, or even during the season if you're that sick about it, it is ideal, in my opinion, to have both the veterans, so anybody already in the NFL, and the incoming rookie class. So Ashton Genty, Amarian Hampton, for the purposes of this video, all those guys in the startup draft right away, so that when you're drafting both veterans and rookies. But if you are wanting to separate the two, because let's say, usually ideally, you're drafting January to April before the NFL draft, you probably want to draft rookie picks instead of the actual rookies before you know where the rookies go, what their draft capital is. You go to the draft settings. When you're going to it, you go draft settings, and then you select the available players to draft as veterans only. This is, I would say, only use this if you are drafting a team January before the NFL draft. January, February, March, April, before the NFL draft, you would set that to vets only. And then as you guys have probably done if you're an experienced Dynasty player, you would go to your roster settings, add in a kicker spot, and then during the rookie draft or during the startup draft where you're drafting only veterans, you can draft kickers in place of rookie picks. So whoever drafts the first kicker would have the first pick in the rookie draft. And there's a great resource that you can use down below in the bylaws sheet as well, where basically during the startup draft, it will, if you paste your league ID, which is right up here, you paste your league ID in there, and it will track the kickers, where they go, who has what picks. And then after the startup draft is over, the commissioner goes in to the draft settings and they manually set the draft order there from 101 to 412 in the rookie draft. So I would only recommend doing this if you are an experienced Dynasty player. If you're new to Dynasty, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this. The best way to go about drafting if you are a new Dynasty player is doing the startup after the NFL draft. So that way you just have the rookies and the veterans mixed in all together and you draft those straight up. But experienced Dynasty players do sometimes, like myself, get a little bit of an itch, a little bit. You got so many of those startups, January, February, March, April, and that's the best way to go about it, is draft the rookie picks in the startup draft. Startup rules: vote on when to draft. And basically, again, when you're doing the polls, when do we want to start the draft? For my league specifically, we will be drafting on June 16th, 12 p.m. Save the draft time. There, you got your draft. If you know players in real life, again, in-person drafts, fast clocks make sense for Dynasty. However, 95% of Dynasty leagues work better like this, where you go to draft settings and you set the clock for 8 hours. And the reason you're going to do this, and you're also, when you set it for 8 hours, going to set the clock to pause overnight as well. Whatever time zone you're in, you can set these, again, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern or whatever, because I'm in the Eastern time zone. You can finick with that. Basically, why you're going to do this, why you're going to have slow clocks on and pause it overnight, is because trading during the startup is probably the single most strategic part of Dynasty. You can move up and down the board. You can collect future rookie picks, stuff I won't get into this tutorial as far as what you should be doing strategy-wise, but check out a video we did last year called Trading During the Startup, and we'll do an updated version probably in the coming weeks. FSE leagues always do slow drafts, so people can maneuver the board. You can theoretically get any player that you want if you really want to pay the price to go get them, versus a fast draft, just like in redraft leagues, like you guys probably know, you're kind of stuck with best player available. So that is how we like to handle the startup draft. Startup draft order, I mean, get creative. If you want to do, pick a golfer and however he does, you get to get your startup draft pick based on that. We just use 100yardrush.com. It's just a random number generator, but you get to watch the race. You can copy the link to the race and put it into the Sleeper chat so people can watch it. Sleeper also, if you just want to, you don't really care that much, you just want to hit randomized draft order, you can also just hit randomized draft order and you'll have your order that way as well. Make sure the startup is set to a snake draft as well. You do not want it set for a linear draft because it will not be fair at all to the person who gets the 101 versus the person who gets the 112. So that's pretty much everything with the startup. Again, the startup draft, for those of you guys that are new to Dynasty, is essentially you are drafting the team that you are going to hold on to forever. It might have rookies and veterans if you're drafting, after the NFL draft to September. It might have just veterans, and then you'll have the rookie draft later with those kickers as rookie picks if you're drafting January to April. So now let's get into part 5, which is the rookie draft. So you've completed the startup. Our standard for startups is 30 rounds, 20 bench spots, start 10. And then post-draft, you can utilize taxi squad spots and IR spots, and those are detailed in the bylaws if you don't know what those are. The rookie draft is also a slow draft, 8-hour clock, pausing overnight, depending on your time zone, specific to FSE rules. That's what we like to do. Same reasoning. We like to encourage trades. If you're picking 107, you really want that guy at 102, you should be able to go up and trade for those players. It makes Dynasty more fun. The rookie draft is not a snake draft. The startup draft was a snake draft. The rookie draft is linear. And if you're doing a startup, May to September, both would be in the same startup and it wouldn't really matter. But if you are doing it January to April, or you're a calendar year down the road doing a rookie draft, the draft is not a snake. And the reason it's not a snake is because the person with the worst team should have the best pick in each round. 101, 201, 301, 401. We recommend doing 4-round rookie drafts as well. So keep that in mind. It is not a snake draft. If you have the 112 in a snake draft because you won the championship, you should not also get the 201. You should be getting the 212 because your team was the best, you won the championship. Now, the rookie draft order will be determined either by how you drafted in the startup, which is the kicker thing that I talked about if you're drafting January to April, or once you've actually played a season in the Dynasty League. The best way I've found to keep the integrity of the league and reward everybody's participation is this rookie draft order structure. Again, you can choose to do this in your league or not, but this is the way that we do it in all of our leagues because I think it is the best solution that is available. You make the non-playoff teams. So if it's a 12-team league, 6 teams wouldn't make the playoffs. You determine the draft order by max points for. And if you go to you have to do this on mobile, which is really annoying, but if you go to your league and you go to the standings, it will show points for, points against, and it will show max points for. And the reason you're going to use max points for, why this is optimal, because some of you guys might be thinking, well, why don't you just give it to the person with the worst record? They should probably have the first pick. The reason this works best to me is it is incentivizing everybody to set their best lineup every week. So if you want to not have to deal with hassles of people tanking and taking their best players out of their lineup and all that kind of stuff, max points for accounts for all of that. You intentionally take all of your best players out of the lineup, doesn't matter. It's going to show up in your max points for, and you're not going to have a high draft pick if all your really good players are on your bench and you actually have a really good team. This ensures that contending playoff teams have integrity of the playoffs, because I'm sure everybody who's been in a Dynasty League before has played against a rebuilding team to get a playoff spot and felt like they had a free win, and that kind of sucks for the playoff teams. It ensures that the contending playoff teams are not going up against cupcakes every single week where people have all their players on their bench. Rebuilding teams have no incentive to sit all their best players. It's not a perfect strategy because setting your best lineup is obviously subjective and people make bad start-sit decisions all the time. But ultimately, if your best lineup every week got you the lowest max points for, then you should get the first pick because you have the worst team in the league. Even though, bad start sits and all that kind of stuff, if you have the worst team in the league by max points for, your team is by definition the worst in the league. So you should have the first pick. The remaining teams, so that's how you handle it for the 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7 team. The teams that didn't make the playoffs. For the remaining teams, the teams that do make the playoffs, if it's 6 teams in a 12-man league, picks 101 to 106 would be accounted for with the lowest max points for. Picks 107 to 112 get allocated as follows. Now, this is going to depend on your payout structure. If you're in a winner-take-all league, it would be different than if third place gets money. This is the way that we handle it. Playoffs happen week 15 through week 17. Picks 107 and 108, i.e. the first picks out of the playoffs, the first guys to get eliminated out of the playoffs, will be determined by max points for of the 2 teams eliminated. So it's the lower max points for team of the 2 teams eliminated in week 15. So it's just basically the same thing as the 101 to 106 teams. Picks 109 to 110, the winner of the third place consolation game, if there's money on the line, gets the 110. The loser gets the 109. If your league only rewards first and second place any money, I suggest doing the same thing for 109 and 110 as you did for 107 and 108, which is whoever gets out, lowest max points for, that's how you determine the draft order. And then obviously pick 111 and 112. The winner gets the 112. The winner or the second place team gets the 111. So that's pretty straightforward. Again, hopefully I'm not confusing anybody. Following the rookie draft, there's also going to be free agents, which is something that has, some rules outlined around it. First of all, you should have separate budgets for waivers in the offseason. So from January to September, as you do during the regular season. You get a 1,000 allocated budget on Sleeper for the rookie draft to be able to pick up players after the rookie draft or anybody throughout the offseason. What I do after the rookie draft is over, because I've seen this time and time again in my leagues, and if you guys are in a lot of Dynasty leagues, I'm sure you've seen it too. The rookie draft is done. All 4 rounds have been drafted. Waivers run daily, usually in the offseason. So the very next day after the rookie draft is done, maybe in your real life you had something going on and you forgot to set your waivers. Guess what? You got none of the undrafted free agents from the rookie draft. So what I like to do is go in as commissioner, manually pause waivers for 3-4 days after the rookie draft is over. Pay attention. Rookie draft is done on Wednesday. Manually pause waivers to run at Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. and then announce to your league using the @all feature, hey, this is when waivers are running post rookie draft, so that everybody has a chance to go through and basically set their waivers. I think that's pretty much everything to get you guys started as Dynasty Commissioner. I realize this is a very in-depth look of being a Dynasty Commissioner, but I feel like no video on the market exists like this of how to do things optimally. And in my opinion, this is how I do things optimally. You might disagree with some of the stuff that I said. That's totally fine. I also decided to farm out to Twitter as well for, some commissioner questions, some, extenuating circumstances that some people have to deal with as commissioner. How would I handle those things? The most common question that I get all the time as a commissioner is, how do you handle vetoes? Vetoing trades that you don't think are fair. A lot of people ask that question. Now, my thoughts are pretty clear on vetoes, and I think I probably detailed them throughout this video. But since it is 100% the most common question I get as a commissioner, how do you handle this? Vetoes, in my opinion, should only be used on obvious collusion. Somebody sends Justin Jefferson for a 4th-round rookie pick. That is obvious collusion. Policing who wins and who loses trades by vote or at the commissioner's discretion is, in my opinion, the wrong way to play Dynasty. You know how many trades I've seen in Dynasty leagues that people said were veto worthy, or that should have been vetoed, or can we veto this, that end up working out for the person who made the trade, who everybody said, you got hosed, you got rinsed, this should have been vetoed. It's happened many times, more than I can count on 2 hands. Vetoes are impossible to police as well because everyone is biased. Everyone in the league doesn't want a player to rip off another player. It inherently makes a good team better, better teams excellent, excellent teams into monsters. Everybody is biased. You have a vested interest in this league, in your team performing. Everybody has a different opinion, and no one knows what can happen in the long term. If you're in a new league with a bunch of new players and you're worried about bad trades going down, what I would suggest doing is limiting the draft picks that you're able to trade in the future. So if you start in 2025, you're only allowed to trade 2026 draft picks, and you have to obviously buy in for those years. Don't let somebody trade all their future picks away and the team collecting picks has a monster by year 2 or 3 of the league. If you're in a new Dynasty league, you want to limit draft pick trading if you can. Number 2, if you're in a new Dynasty league and you're worried about people getting ripped off, then you should probably make the buy-in higher so that they're incentivized to take the league seriously and not make bad trades. Now, some people might ask, okay, what happens if a bad trade that's not collusion happens, but it is just objectively a bad trade? And Connor Hullebuck here from Twitter, maybe it's the Jets goalie, maybe it's not, says some guy traded Devon Achane for the 207. Objectively a horrible trade. Devon Achane is worth way more than that. He's like, it's not collusion, but it's a really bad trade. There's going to be tacos in your league. Some folks are just not good at Dynasty, and that's totally cool. Like I said, if this was a get your guy situation, that guy wanted Trey Harris so bad that he would sell Devon Achane for him. The only thing I can suggest, like I said, is making the buy-in higher in your Dynasty league so that people don't behave like this as much. They take the league seriously. Or when you start the league, maybe vet some guys. Maybe, if you know them in real life, try and figure out ways to limit how they trade. Again, I don't think vetoing trades, even in this situation where Devon Achane for a 207, some people might be like, that's a vetoable trade. And I do think you can make the argument for it, but that is not clear and obvious collusion. There is a way in which that works out for that guy. If Trey Harris becomes a top 12 receiver in Dynasty, that's probably a fair trade. What it stems from, to me, people being mad about trades like this, instead of being butthurt that someone else got a good deal, how about you work the phones yourself and go steal Devon Achane from that guy? Because to me, the reason you want to veto this trade is because that person got a steal, not you. If you got the steal, you wouldn't want to veto the trade, right? That's why you want to veto the trade in this situation. So for me, how about you work the phones next time? How about you go be proactive and ask that guy if he wants Trey Harris? You heard him say he wants Trey Harris one time, and you're like, hey, I'll give you Trey Harris for Devon Achane. And if he does it, good on you. That's great strategy on your part. To me, that is totally legal. Somebody wants to trade Devon Achane for the 207. They're an idiot, but that's totally legal. And whoever gets Devon Achane for that, more power to you. It bothers me too when I see a trade like that go down in a Dynasty league where I'm like, what the heck is this guy doing? But on the inside, I know that I would have done the trade as well. And I would be thanking my lucky stars I did the trade. And I've done trades like that. So that's how I would handle those like really bad trades happen. Again, I'm not in favor of vetoing on bad trades. I'm not in favor of vetoing unless it's obvious collusion.
So that's where I stand on vetoes and bad trades. Tanking is another topic of conversation. And Ethan says here, I understand tanking in dynasty leagues. It's part of the game. But how do you handle an owner deliberately tearing their roster down so bad that they can't even, start players? They have no running backs on their roster, for example, or they're starting, Kyle Juszczyk at their RB1 spot. This is totally allowed, in my opinion. Tanking by not having enough players, to me, is fair. Tanking by taking your best players out of your starting lineup is not fair, which is why max points for is what I implement in all of our dynasty leagues. If you trade, let's say you have 5 running backs on your roster and you're tearing it down, you're tanking, you trade all of your best running backs away for draft picks, and you have to start Kyle Juszczyk and Durham Smythe or something in your starting lineup, that's allowed in leagues, in my opinion, as long as number 1, you're setting your best lineup every single week, and number 2, you don't have like 15 empty roster spots. Those are the only 2 stipulations I would put on that. But generally speaking, tanking is something that people talk about in Dynasty all the time. The best way to go about it is max points for. If you genuinely have a bad team, then you should get the first pick. That's the reality of the situation. If you're setting your best lineups, then there's nothing any other manager can say about your situation. The question of not setting lineups, somebody commented here, one team forgot to set their lineup and it affected the overall standings after that week, especially, like I said, if somebody makes the playoffs because of it. This can play out in so many ways. It could play out by somebody missing the playoffs. It could play out by somebody getting a better draft pick, so on and so forth. Obviously, the easy answer is you got to set your best lineup every single week. In terms of best lineup, that's obviously subjective with start-sit decisions, but as long as it's not obvious, Justin Jefferson's on your bench kind of thing, I think this is totally fine. Sometimes people forget to set their lineups. It sucks, but it's reality. You can't police it 100% of the time and have the commissioner go in and manually adjust the guy's lineup. In extenuating circumstances where somebody says, hey, I'm out of town, something happened, I have a family emergency, can you set my lineup, commissioner? That's when you can do it. But if somebody just forgets to take out an inactive player, shit happens, more power to you if you're playing against them. Sometimes it can be a little bit more complex, and Sexy Pats from BDG proposes this example where a rebuilding team intentionally took Joe Burrow out of their lineup to start Jermaine Burton instead. And the reason he did that is because the person he was playing against, if they made the playoffs, the person whose first-round pick he had would have missed the playoffs, ergo giving him a better draft pick. This is the one question that I'm kind of split on because on one hand, set your best lineup. Joe Burrow's your best player. By a landslide, he should be in there. Number 2, that's great strategy. And generally, as commissioner, I like to reward great strategy. But the person who misses the playoffs in this situation is going to be pissed. 100%, and you're going to have to deal with that as the commissioner. But my opinion, win more games next time. You controlled your own destiny to make the playoffs. Don't let it come to that. My inclination in this situation, because Burrow versus Burton is such a large gap, I would say he should have to start Joe Burrow. But if it's a close decision, Rashad Bateman versus Jalen Waddle, and you're down 15 points, and you think that Rashad Bateman's going to get less points than Jalen Waddle, and you want to play that strategy so that you get the better draft pick, that's fair. Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman, anything can happen. That's close enough to me that you can do that. If it's Joe Burrow versus a bench player like Jermaine Burton, that's one thing. But if it's close enough, I think that's playing strategy, and that's totally fair and definitely legal. Donka says, should you put training wheels on a league full of new players? And I think this is a really good idea. If you're worried about vetoing and worried about people selling all their draft picks, putting training wheels on the league by, like he lists here, not trading in the startup, they can only trade after, only having 2026 draft picks and players to trade in season, but they can't trade 2027. 2028 and 2029 picks until after the first season. These are all very good suggestions. If you are worried that a new league might fold because of people making rookie mistakes, the number one training wheels thing that you can put into the league to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand quickly is limiting or even abolishing trades in the startup altogether. Now, I love trading in the startup. I think it's one of the funnest parts about Dynasty startups. However, if everybody's new, then they won't know how to value rookie picks. They won't know how to value startup trade downs and all that kind of stuff. So I would suggest limiting or even abolishing trades altogether during the startup if you are worried that the league will get out of hand. Only trading 1 year in advance rookie picks, also very smart. Slippery slope doing vetoing stuff because people are new. Like if you have a new Dynasty player and every trade that he does, you're going to veto because he's a new Dynasty player, that's a very slippery slope, and I wouldn't recommend doing that. But what you can do, limit draft pick trading, limit rookie pick trading, limit startup pick trading in general. And then this one was only unique to a couple of years ago when that Bills-Bengals game got canceled because of the Damar Hamlin situation. But I thought it was a good question. In extenuating circumstances like this, commissioners had to make decisions on how to handle it because it was week 17. It was the fantasy football championship. What I did in my leagues was split the pot based on projection most of the time if it factored in. So let's say somebody had T. Higgins going into that game. It was a 50-50 shot that they win the championship based on what T. Higgins does. I split the pot 50-50 in those type of leagues. Sometimes nobody had a player in that game and it didn't affect it at all. But if the projection was, hey, somebody's got an 80% chance of winning to a 20% chance of winning because if Khalil Shakir had gotten 16 points in that game, then they would have won. I'm not going to give that person the entire win because it is possible they lost because Khalil Shakir has a great game. What I would do is based on the sleeper projection, what percentage chance did that guy have of winning? What percentage chance did that guy have of winning? I would probably split it based on that. Maybe the managers themselves could work it out too, being like, hey, I was probably going to lose. If you give me 2 buy-ins back or whatever, then we can split the pot. I would say having the managers themselves deal with it or dealing with it based on the sleeper projections was the best way to go about that Damar Hamlin situation, in my opinion. But let us know any other commissioner questions you guys have down below. Leave them down there. I will answer as many as I can. I know this was a bit of a longer video, but I do think no video on the Dynasty market like this exists. And again, check out the resources that I listed down below. If you're going to do kickers as rookie picks in the draft, make sure to use that resource in the bylaws. If you want to use bylaws, especially if you're playing with people that you don't know, make sure to use those as well. If you're curious, what league settings do we recommend? Those are listed in the bylaws as well. And again, as I mentioned throughout the video, if you want to join our new listener league, head on down to the link in the description, fill out the Google form and all that good stuff. And while we're here, if you guys want a ton of Dynasty features for you as a Dynasty player, head on over to flockfantasy.com. Not only will you have bonus chances to get into the listener league for signing up using promo code FSE, but you also get access to our Dynasty rankings to help you in your startup. You get access to the prospects tab, which helps you in your rookie draft, the FSE prospect model in those videos I do all the time, wide receivers to target and avoid, running backs to target and avoid. The best feature that you can use in your startup is the My Teams feature as well, where you can look over your team, you can select your specific creators' rankings that you want to see, and you can go to my name, Corey Bushland, and you can check out exactly how I would rank your team. You can also get the overall expert opinion. You can go through and see, do you have the best running back core in the league? Do you have the best wide receiver core in the league? The My Teams feature for new Dynasty players is probably the single best feature on the site. We also have trade calculator that you can use. You can get my specific opinion on any startup trades, especially if you are a new Dynasty player and you don't know how to value players properly or how to value picks properly. You can throw that in the Dynasty trade calculator that we have on the site, fill it out specific to your league settings, and it will adjust my rankings based on that. And you can see exactly what my opinion is there. If you want a team review on your specific Dynasty team, maybe you just drafted it, whatever the case is, you can also get those as well. You get a free team review voucher when you sign up annually on flockfantasy.com. Use the promo code FSE to access all of those benefits. You also get our draft guides and all that good stuff. Definitely check that out if you guys are interested. But with that being said, like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, comment down below any of your thoughts. Peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.